Ezra, really excited to have you join us. Just to intro, Ezra and I were colleagues at Google and kept in touch ever since. And Ezra spent 15 years at Google. So today she's going to talk about driving entrepreneurial growth in a tech giant and how to become a entrepreneur. So really excited to have you, Ezra. Do you want to do a short intro to our audience?
Sure, thank you. And I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me on the call, connecting with old friends, but also new ones too in your community. And I've been a fan of your podcasts and I've been watching the content, very impressed with the lineup of speakers. So I'm honored also to be on the call. So
We're
thanks for
honored.
that. And to your point, yes, 15 years flew by at Google. And overall, I spent 25 years in the industry. So happy to go into more details around that. And so the word entrepreneur is somewhat new. We're all surrounded in Silicon Valley by founders and entrepreneurs, but entrepreneur is the term where you actually show those entrepreneurial skills inside a company. So part of my history at Google was all trying to like launch new platforms and to put that like founders drive in various initiatives. So happy to talk more about those.
Yeah, yeah, and I know you were in Turkey, you were in London, you're in Silicon Valley, and how did you make the decisions to pick the roles within a big company like Google? There are probably, so many different teams, so many different products. How did you make that decision?
Yeah, so it was a little bit serendipitous, I have to say. So not every step of my career was very like planned, but looking back, it's like a career is like a giant maze, and then you take one path and you try to make like the best of it. So like I never think that there's a right or a wrong career path. You just actually just embark on an adventure and make sure like that's the right one that turns out to be the right one in the end for you. So when I look back, I played a lot of like growth leadership roles in our key business areas. And then I rotated from different like geographies too. So I relocated from Istanbul, where I joined Google to set up their business marketing presence there. And it was like an emerging market. So I had an opportunity to actually like learn how to run or establish Google's presence in the emerging markets. Then my next role was to run some of the B2B marketing channels for the UK and Ireland, a very established market, so very developed market in terms of our saturation too there. So it was a very different dynamic there. And then eventually I found myself in Silicon Valley at our headquarters here. So a very different operation here too, and happy to kind of like compare and contrast what it means to work for Google in 3 different regions as well. But I think when I made the decision for these like either geographical moves or like moving from one product area to another, and also moving from one function to another. So I was mostly in marketing, but then I moved on to the product management side and also briefly played a role in like strategy and partnerships and business development side too. So when I did those, like these were the some of the like the highlights in my mindsets. First of all, I you have to have the like the learnings mindset. So when the opportunity presents itself, I ask myself, can this new role make me more well-rounded? And then once I'm in the role, am I learning? Am I contributing? And am I having fun? So this is like how I actually determines if each role is like a good fit for me. And am I having fun is a real thing too, to be honest, because if you get out of the bed with energy and excitement to like put your passion behind a business, you want to work with a great team of fun people too. So not just like smart, but also empathetic and like good environments, good chemistry with everybody. So I wanted to make sure that I'm in that environment too. And if the signals are right, then you stay in the role. And if the signals are not so great, so you actually that's when I decided to make the my next move internally. And yes, we were all lucky, you and at Google too, to have all these like rotation opportunities. So I thought like all those moves have made me a little more well-rounded. And then when I was in Turkey, again, my day job was to establish Google's presence in the country, but I always had some passion projects aside my day job too. So I was really excited, and we had this marketing leadership in London. So I was actually doing voluntary strategy and operations work for our marketing leader there. And then when I moved to London. My day job was, again, to run the B2B marketing channels for UK and Ireland. But my passion project was to launch the Google Partners Program across EMEA. And sometimes those passion projects get you far. So like that's the reason why actually they asked me to move to the US to launch and manage that globally. So that also kind of like accelerated my kind of like coming to the US, to Silicon Valley as well.
Mm. That's sometimes when an external person look at the resume, okay, 15 years at Google, but actually it feels like you had multiple careers, even multiple functions
Hmm.
in different locations, and that's like a huge variety of experiences. I'm curious, like, what was it like working in Turkey versus UK versus Mountain View? I was just in the UK. I feel like the culture is so different, and I can only
Very
imagine.
different. I feel like, yes, those three offices were like three different companies. So, of course, when I joined in Turkey, that was like 15 years ago. Google was, it almost felt like working for Google's ad agency than Google itself. So, the entire office was 20 people. We didn't have our free cafeteria. We didn't have any free massages. Like none of the perks that were like known, that was like Google was known for. And I remember actually celebrating the day we got a fridge in the office. It was kind of like a WeWork type of space. And then at the end of the like the weekly meeting with the entire like 20 people team, and 18 of them were salespeople, and I was like number two in marketing. So we were like the two additional people in the room. So we actually, fun fact, the best part of those like weekly meetings was like, okay, who's going to go shopping to the supermarket downstairs to buy lunch for all our like peers and so on. So that was like a fun moment. So very different dynamics there. And the focus was on building everything from scratch. So Google had an established playbook, marketing playbook to go reach out to advertisers in other countries. But then in Turkey, we had to like build everything from scratch. And also, we didn't have the resources that like London or the Silicon Valley teams had. So we had to be in a lot of like beg, borrow, steal mode to be really scrappy. And that actually brought the philosophy in my mind, like a constraint brings creativity. So you have to actually be really creative to drive momentum in emerging markets. In London, to your point, it was like a wow. Like I think it was like one of the most buttoned up Google offices. Uh, and there's actually even a wow factor when you walk into the office. At the reception, there's a giant bathtub, and which again just speaks to the creativity, because I think people have their best ideas when they're sitting in the bathtub. So they all want you to go in and have your moment there. And but then it was like again, it was like a well-oiled machine in the London office. We had like great leadership both on like marketing and sales side, and there was not a lot of like engineering presence at the time there, but it was also very collaborative with all the rest of the region. So it was a great vibe there. And then Silicon Valley is like a giant factory. I have to say, after going to the like the London's office and seeing the like the wow factors in the like the design of the office, when you walk into Silicon Valley, you almost like expect this welcome to Google and Silicon Valley, kind of like Disneyland welcome. It wasn't there, but it was like so fascinating to be able to walk up to our TJF sessions and watch Larry and Sergey on stage every week, be able to ask them questions, and to be able to just like walk up to the product managers who created the tools you were trying to like market back in Turkey, and just have coffee chats with them and like brainstorm about like the evolution of those products. So it was like a very different vibe as well.
Mm, mm. Okay, so quick follow-up. The bathtub, is it like a real bathtub? You
It
can
is a
climb
real
in,
bathtub.
anyone can climb in and then stay there to ideate.
Yes, exactly. So it sits at the reception, and yeah, you can go in, and all of us have a picture or two. It is on its by it. So yeah.
What was the idea that came out of it?
Oh, I mean, the idea came out of it was like I have to move to London, and I, I was so excited
Yes.
about it. But aside from joking, the idea was actually what we piloted in Turkey and a few other emerging markets had so much potential that the idea was to actually like now it's time to launch this across Europe. So that's what the passion that brought me to that office. So again, as I mentioned, like a pilot project or like a passion project on the side. And that's kind of like speaks to the entrepreneurialism inside the company too. So At the time, Google was very young. The goal was like the whole playbook was to go after advertisers directly and get them on board. But then we had all these like each time you launched the platform in a new market, there was a lot of like excitement. But advertisers really want to spend time figuring out the auction system, like bidding for keywords and writing like copy. So basically, like 3 country leads like Turkey, Poland, Israel, we put our heads together and developed this like partners outreach, and it was very scrappy when we ran it in these like 3 like emerging market regions. But we didn't even like call the program Google Partners at the time because it was pilot. We're like, let's call it AdWords Ambassadors and make sure all these like small agencies, whether it's like a one-man webmaster or like a one-person like consultant, marketing consultant, whoever works closely with a small business should be empowered by Google to really like turn this into a business opportunity for them, so that they go to the small businesses and build like longer term relationships and teach them either how to run the AdWords campaigns themselves or just run it on their behalf. And with that, we were seeing a lot of like not just acquisition side, but also retention and growth and revenue opportunities. So I was very fascinated that that emerging market pilots actually fits so well in mature markets too. Like again, our ad saturation in London among like small business communities was very high. But even so, for us to go after that untapped potential, this model fits perfectly. And then we're testing in France and then in Germany and all the like the other developed countries in Europe too. And then that was like time to scale across Europe at that point. And then the US, who is actually like known for our headquarters, is known for coming up with all like the products. They're actually wowed by what's going on in Europe, and they're like, why don't you come to the US? And we actually built this as a main product, and that's when we went through the branding as well and relaunched the platform under the name Google Partners. And then yeah, it was a big thing, and like live in 75 countries. It's been running for the last 10 years, driving multi-billion dollars every year as an incremental ads revenue channel.
Wow. So you started the Google Partners program in the regional office.
In the regional office, and
Yeah.
that's I came to the US as the global lead to launch the
Yeah.
scaling as well. And of course, the program we ran in Europe versus the one we is relaunched in Europe, sorry, in the US, was very different as well.
Mhm.
Again, to speak to the scrappiness, the startupiness nature of the program back then. So I was like every night pinging our product managers in Mountain View to say, hey, we've got something really cool in this like emerging market region. And at the time, we were not a priority. Like helping Turkey grow its business was not a priority on their list. And then so we're like, okay, we're not getting any product manager attention, but there's so much potential. So how do we like hack this and how do we test this? And so basically, we built this like prototype, which was my drawing of the website on how it should look to attract all the potential digital agencies to the platform. And like overnight, my intern turns it to like a website mock, and then there's one external webmaster we go to, and like he builds the platform, and then we find this like one Polish engineer in our like Poland office that is willing to spend like 20% like building this in house too. So basically, it was like again, all that like beg, borrow, steal of the resourcing part of things. That's put together the proof of concept. And then we had like thousands of agencies sign up, big and small agencies, when we were just planning to go after webmasters. All these like big digital agencies like Omnicom and the big ones, they want to send their staff to these trainings and get our support and incentives to be a part of the platform. So that's actually what caught the attention of the product managers. When you have a proven concept, that was then worth their time to spend more to internalize it and put the actual Google stamp on it.
That's such a great case study. It's like initially, when the proof of when the product is not on the prioritization map, or not getting the resource, you were very scrappy in, let's just get a website out, right? And
Mhm.
then getting people to start sign up and show some progress. And that's a great way to do the entrepreneurial efforts within a bigger company. I'm actually curious, so for that program, Did you launch the website and then people came, or did you do any almost like outbound or announcement, or like how did people find out about this program?
We heavily relied on PR and a lot of like events.
Mhm.
So we did these like series of small events, and when we felt that like there's so much excitement, obviously in every event, it's not just kind of like you putting out your message, but it's the best way to collect feedback too. So I don't know, like we're up on stage for an hour talking about the program and what we will bring to the agencies, but then it's like hours of feedback sessions where we're collecting inputs from them too, and we're flying to Israel doing the event in Tel Aviv, and then simultaneously there's one happening in Poland and so on. So it kind of like filters through all those. It's also like the best way to listen to your target audience. And that's when we shape the program and where we're confident about the expectations and what we can deliver. Then actually we turn to like more established marketing channels. So yeah, like we were mostly going offline. So we wanted to give coupons to these digital agencies that they can distribute to their customers, advertise their customers. And we were just like printing them instead of a platform doing the whole email marketing around those. And everything was like very offline during the testing period.
Yeah, that's such a great point. It's also like offline allows you to create that in-person connection.
Mhm.
So events and PR, like getting some press coverage on this
Mhm.
is very organic.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe Google let us pilot these ideas in the emerging markets because, like, when you launch something in the US and when you put a lot of like, PR resources, it's so hard to backpedal if anything goes wrong. So it almost like created a strategy where some of these like smaller markets could be a testing ground for you too. So for any new idea right now, as I'm talking to small businesses that are building startups that are building some global strategies. I'm like, why don't you choose a few like pilot markets where you test new ideas, where you collect more inputs? Because, or even in the US, like go after a smaller region target audience until you really cook the like the final recipe. Just kind of like keep on iterating on it, and it's a safer bet to do it in a smaller markets where I get like the dynamics are a little different than the US.
Mm. You mentioned you started to do to work with some earlier stage startups in the last year or so. What are the main differences in working with these earlier stage companies compared to larger ones?
Yeah, so I will point out a couple of differences that work to the advantage of the startups. Obviously, everybody thinks yes, Google is this very established company now with every tool at our fingertips and everything moves like smoothly. First of all, it's not like that. And so when you're inside, yes, there's definitely culture like thriving in ambiguity, and not everything is like given to us. So like in that way it's very similar, but on the startup side, here are some of the advantages of being able to move faster. For instance, um, when you have like bigger teams, bigger budgets inside a big company, big tech company, then it becomes an extra hurdle to get everybody aligned. So you actually end up spending more time in meetings to convince your stakeholders, counterparts. You spend more time in decks or promoting your project ideas and so on. But in a startup environment, you could just actually everybody's like one acting as like one big team. So it's much easier to get aligned around a common goal. And then your scope is bigger in a startup as well. So as the company gets bigger, you're kind of like a critical piece in like a bigger machine. And however, your focus gets like more narrower. But in startup environments, you can just actually see like the big picture more easily without a lot of need for internal communications to connect those dots. And then in a big tech company, sometimes you do get slowed down by bureaucracy too. So decision making cycles get longer, and so on. And then just the virtue of Google, there are certain things that you just can't do in the like at all. For instance, like you are the search engine, so when everybody else is like doing search engine optimization, you can't do SEO for your own product and so on. So there are definitely like absolutely no channels that are actually really working well in the industry that Google shouldn't be touching. So there's all these like external additional scrutiny. So basically extra discipline to shy away from some of those channels, or Another example would be, for instance, cross-selling. So I can't go to our AdWords audience, all the advertisers, and try to sell them another paid product just because you're Google, or just because you have the phone. You can't, the Pixel phone, you can't actually do that. So yeah, we were like really careful about those strategies. So we missed out on some of those like marketing channels as an opportunity for us. And but then in the startups these days, some of the challenges is like, depending on their stage, like when they're small and when they don't have all the traffic, like as a growth marketer leader, like you kind of like walk in and you want to run experiments, but it's just like A/B split testing, because like the traffic size isn't big enough, the volume isn't big enough to like do multivariate tests the way we used to do. And so there's that disadvantage. And sometimes again, we were able to invest in like multiple pilots and see what sticks. But in a startup environment, sequencing becomes so important. You can't launch everything at once and kind of like start optimizing them. You have to know what exactly is the first channel you have to start with, and then adding the next one and the next one. Yeah, so I remembered once again, that's the importance of like sequencing and prioritization when you have only limited resources, a couple of people on the team, and like maybe limited budget to just run one channel well.
Yeah. I have a quick follow-up. So, there are a lot of folks who are thinking about transitioning from a bigger company to a smaller startup. Some of them are more successful than others. Like having done that yourself, what are some career advice you have, or for those folks who are making those transition from a very well-resourced bigger tech giants to smaller companies?
Well, I'd like to say they have to be. I mean, I'd like to say, I'd like to hope that they have had some entrepreneurial spirit inside them. They're not just making the career transition because they're not happy with their current job, but like they have to feel like giddy about the startup environment. So you have to have the passion, and then you have to. Be with that passion brings the energy behind it. So you have to like not shy away from rolling up the sleeves and doing multiple roles in a startup environment as well. And so you shouldn't just like stick to your job description. You should know like in a month, like everything will be very different in a startup environment. And that's definitely the iterations are definitely like things I'm like observing through my relationship with these like new startups. And yes, and then to be honest, this is not just for people who are making that transition, but for anybody in our industry. I think this is an era where we're learning marketing from scratch. Thanks to the AI, all tools are changing, all ways of doing business are changing, all team organizations are changing. So basically, this is a moment where even as a growth leader, you really have to get your hands dirty, and like you have to be like in the tools, or like in those like brainstorming sessions like from scratch with your team and so on, not just helping them go through that evolution into the AI era, but also like you as a leader, you have to know what they're how this is like shaping to stay close to the industry as well.
No podcast is complete without talking about AI. So you mentioned AI. I'm curious on like, how are you seeing AI like evolving in growth marketing, and how have you utilized the technologies in your
Yeah,
work?
yeah. Definitely AI. I remember doing my like thesis project in AI 20 years ago, and it's finally here, as we
Right.
say. But actually, joking aside, like we were using AI all along. Like anything that had like machine learning. For instance, when you go on Amazon, and again, to my experience in Google Shopping, when I led their growth and merchandising efforts there, like when you're doing people who bought this also bought that, that's actually an AI model. There's a lot of machine learning that keeps learning from the patterns, like your shopping behavior, and that predicts what you're next likely to buy, and that like everyone who's seeing those like set of recommended product recommendations is seeing those based on like a really robust machine learning model behind it. So we were using AI years before it became a thing, and in different industries, like more so than the others. Or for instance, in Google Workspace, or now like this is something that I'm also piloting with some of our startups that I'm advising, is when you land on the pricing page, for instance, the old way of doing business is you land on it, everybody sees the pricing models compared. It's like basic, middle, and then like the advanced model. But no, like if you have the right signals about me, and if you also know my lookalikes, and like what's the companies that look like me actually end up signing, which SKU they land on, then you should be able to really like get me onto that journey faster than like me again comparing, make the. So basically, we're building a lot of machine learning to guess what you're likely to buy, to put the right, if it's like a B2B SaaS product, right SKU of that product in front of you, and see how that goes. So basically, these were all like machine learning driven initiatives we were already running. But I'm super excited about the AI being here in like additional ways. First of all, like creating contents, creating like creatives, and the speed of testing or creating all these like variations of content to know like what really actually attracts your target audience's attention. Like that speed of go to market will be like shrinking, and so the time it takes will be shrinking with the tools that help us like accelerate the creative processes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely the creative process is, and I really like what you said about the pricing piece. It's like, well, first of all, it's like how good the signals are, in giving you that, and so in those experiments, do you just okay, this is the pricing model for you? Is it based on their like stage, segment, size, company size, employee count,
Yeah.
or is it based on the individual sort of
Uh,
information?
yeah. So in the workspace example, yes, because there are the signals mainly, but we always had like an additional list too, because you kind of like enter your domain to get started on like setting your email addresses tied to that domain. And
Mhm.
so like all those signals are easy to pull based on like your website information or your company information. And we had some lists that we kind of like match against and so on, so it was like easier to predict. If you're looking at different types of services, you could just lean into, or maybe like some consumer services, like there could be like other references, other databases you need to like reference again. But yeah, in a B2B environment, like those are the signals you would mainly use.
Got it, got it. And you were talking about this experiment, you run at Google Workspace, or is it a
Yeah.
start? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and then we're now taking it to startup
Mhm,
environments for
mhm.
a few of the B2B SaaS clients.
Yeah. Is it actually having a higher conversion rate or higher ARPU?
It is taking time to set it up, to be honest. We're in that journey, and
Mhm,
we're yet to see in the startup environment. But
mhm.
yes, in the workspace environment, it was going well. And this is actually that was an interesting time in Google Workspace, because I was on that team running their growth programs during the pandemic. And of course, all these
Yeah.
businesses are like the likes of our business was exploding with extreme growth. But then how do you turn, you don't want just like growth, like you don't want just companies signing up. You want like smart growth in a way. So then not just like getting you started on workspace, that was kind of like the old goal. Now like getting you started on the right SKU of the workspace, not only will drive like higher lifetime value, but also bring like more services to you as a customer and so on. So we had to make sure like we funneled all that traffic growth into the right SKUs. And that was a very creative way of doing so.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also there were some like pricing changes that's again, like the business had decided before my time. So like then while introducing those pricing changes, what are the right product features that based on what you're likely to use and what you have been like traditionally using as a workspace customer, and how do we actually build on those messages? Hey, you're going to get like more of these, and then like now this pricing is also happening, but we'll give you like more of that. So that was also baked into our, all that like analysis was baked into our communication strategy for all the like pricing changes too. And yeah, so with those two things, the main pricing change that had a huge impact on revenue growth, and then also the kind of like the smarter way of acquiring and funneling the users were very effective.
That's really interesting, especially I can imagine at that scale. Like, has your North Star metric then changed? Um,
It's mainly like seat growth, but
Great.
so as a and then revenue growth tied to it, and so that was the main North Star metrics around it. And of course, you have to draw like there are some retention indicators too. So in my one of my like lead roles, the final role at Google was in a team called Growth Lab. It was like a tiny team looking at growth of initiatives across the company, like all products. So for us, APPU is a key term, like average product per user. It's not ARPU.
Mm,
It's actually because we have on the consumer side, most of our products are free. So how many products you use per user is very good, strong indicator of your retention, your lifetime value. You're likely to start paying for some of the products. So we obsessed over the APPU metric, and it was not just like MAU, but also or like weekly active users. It's also like how many of those products you're using, and then using isn't just like turning it on and off. It's actually like sometimes spent on the site or on the product using these two. So yeah, like there were some more complexity built into these like metrics. But yes, you're right. The North Star does change when you actually are at a maturation, at that saturation point where you're like, just okay, let's just get the traffic and like, what's next? There's
yeah.
that evolution. And I
Um,
have to say, I no longer want to call it like North Star. It's a growth star metric in my mind, because in every company, if you're a for-profit company, your North Star ultimately is revenue and like the components of revenue. But then the growth team should also sometimes like ignore the revenue side to really make sure you're moving the growth needle, like you're making the growth model work well first. So it's actually a more customized nature of that metric. So it's like a growth star metric for me.
that makes sense. So it's almost initially the KPI or success metric is how many seats that you have acquired, and then it went to okay, how many seats, um how many actually, like, would you say like a
Products.
revenue?
Yes, how many
Oh,
features, yes, how many products each
how many?
seat
Yeah.
uses, and so
Hmm.
on. So like
Hmm.
there's a whole like sophistication funnel. And
Yeah.
these were some of my takeaways from Google, but now we're kind of going
Mhm.
to like more details and creating those complexities in one of the startups I'm working with too. So yeah, so now yes, you first get the traffic. So you get these like companies sign up, and then you want to expand, like land and expand. You want to get like more seats inside the company. So you're like a higher lifetime value customer. And then once you're, what are the indicators of a higher lifetime value? How many features in the product you use? So how do we make sure that we create the right entry points? So then as a growth leader, you think about how many entry points you can build from one product to the other, like from one feature to another, so that like it's a stickier experience.
The average product per user, was it across consumer and business products or just business products?
In my last role, it was more focused on consumer products.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, okay. For so that's a that's a signal for the Google Workspace product.
No, this was like the last role was across Google. So in Growth
Oh,
Lab,
okay,
yes.
sorry. Yeah.
So we had all the products from Chrome to Android to Google Maps and Google Photos and all that. So how do you make sure that uh, people love Google, people use it, and they're really we're a big part of their lives, delivering
Mm,
value. So what are the indicators and how do we measure that? Was the kind of like the
yeah.
start part of the APPU concept. And looking back, like in Google Workspace, we were doing the same to as a signal for retention of our users. Like because again, Workspace is a suite of like productivity and communication tools, everything from Google Meet to Google Drive or let's say Gmail. So how many of those products you're using is a big indicator of whether if you're a free user, would you be able to convert to a paid version? Or if you're a paid user, are you likely to stick around for another couple of years, or are you fading away because just using one tool and one of those tools? So that was a retention signal for us.
Yeah, yeah. It's so valuable for multi-product companies, especially as more software companies are trying to do the all in one solution. Actually, adoption of multiple products can be a really strong signal for retention and
Yeah,
upselling.
yeah. And so the easier way, if you're on the marketing side and if you own the email channel, is to do like cross-sell emails to kind of like talk about the other features and so on. But if you either have influence over the product organization, or if you're a product manager, then how do you create the right entry points, the from one product to another, all these smoother transition points to introduce like the next magic in your suite of products.
I would imagine probably one, the website, two, in product, almost like a reference
Mhm.
area. Like I know, Dropbox have this banner, and
Yeah.
a lot of products have those, almost like a lower left and lower right, sort of the banner advertising space,
Mhm.
and the emails. Would you say these are the
Yeah.
sort of land and expand?
Email is the easiest way to just check out the concept and
Mhm.
see. Again, there was a point where we were promoting Workspace to a different B2B cohort of our users. And our product managers were, again, they had different parties. So we were only able to convince them, again, once like marketing started running these like email campaigns and there was some traction, we're like, okay, now it's time to build the in products transition points from one product to another. So that's actually easier level. It's at least like within Google, it was an easier level for us to pull.
Yeah, yeah. You have such a vast experience. You've worked across like
Yeah.
all of Google products and Google Workspace. I think you spent some time at Google Shopping as well, and you run tons of growth experiments there too, right?
Yeah, so Google Shopping had an evolution, and it started as also like with the branding. It was like Google Shopping Express, then we became Google Express, then Google Shopping. So that kind of like speaks to the nature of some of the strategies changing along the way too. And in the first, when I joined the team, it was a free delivery service, same day free delivery service in certain geographies, much like Instacart or Amazon Prime and then it had partnerships with like Costco, Target, and we actually Google would go pick up the items, pay, and like deliver it to your doorstep. And it was free, and there were no minimum like basket sizes. So it was one of the like most loved products in the geographies like we ran the products. Highest NPS score than any other like Google product for a while, and so on. So that was amazing, and we were getting a lot of traffic. But of course, then comes the next evolution of the revenue optimization, because people order one toothpaste and then 2 hours later they order a toothbrush and you're making like two trips. So there's no path to profitability if you continue like that. So we introduced the minimum carts and a whole experimentation around whether the minimum cart size should be $35, $50, $100. So all those like decisions need to be based on experimentation there. So once we do that, again, we throttle some of that behavior, and so kind of like discipline a little bit, put a little more discipline around like how we're delivering those orders. Then we're like, okay, should we test with like a free membership? So because like there are some users abandoning the platform just because they don't want to get hit by the minimum cart. So we offered a free membership, and sorry, the paid membership, but then with a free trial period. So in that moment, should the free trial be 14 days, 30 days, more, another round of experiments. And then we realized, hey, actually this trial period, despite the trial periods, like expecting them to pay for those memberships sometimes is a little like too much commitment, because people aren't really sure how many times they're going to order from you, because they could also be Amazon Prime customers or be using different platforms too. So then we decided to abandon the membership and then we came up with the concept of like coupons, trial coupons. And oh my god, like you can imagine all sorts of like coupon variations. Is it buy one get one free coupon? Is it like spend this much gets spend $50 gets like $20 off, etc. So all sorts of coupon tests there. So every time we wanted to bring a little more like financial discipline in a path to profitability, like there was a lot of experimentation in the pricing part of the model. And yeah, and then where things landed is this is something I'm really proud of. Like while we were spending like millions of dollars of coupon budgets, then we brought it down to zero without actually getting a huge hit on the traffic and the volume of the orders. And landing that was a huge cross-functional effort. So growth leadership was at the hub of a meeting called Growth Rev. Again, some weeks like we would have like 100 different people like dialing in, from operations, business development, category managers, like product managers, to make sure like if we make like one change in our coupon mechanism, how is it going to impact the orders that our merchant partners like Costco and Target are getting, and like what's the business development team going to say to those partners? And then also, or if you're like making the coupon a little more attractive or a little less attractive, how is our volume predictions in our operations team going to be affected by it too? So every change had to be super like delicately balanced too. So some of these like experimentation discussions like took like weeks or maybe not months, if not months of planning.
Did you then create more of a model where like you track like a historical data and then do predictive modeling to make those decisions, or like what was the KPI you're actually like driving towards in this?
So we were trying to like maintain the traffic and volume growth, like the average basket sizes, as well as the frequency of orders, the order number of frequent orders, and also getting acquiring like more users at the same time, while we're taking away a huge benefits, which was the coupons. Because at the same time, when you do a lot of like couponing, you realize you're kind of skewed towards a coupon seeker audience. So like you're able to acquire them very easily, but then they're sitting in the platform waiting for their next coupon before they make their next purchase. And I'm like as a consumer, I'm one of them too. If I'm getting coupons, why put in the organic order where you can actually get your coupon if you wait another couple of weeks? So basically, we were sometimes like cannibalizing the organic business, organic growth opportunity too. So you had to be able to like shrink the coupon budgets very subtly while also trying to create the like the acquisition and the momentum like the on the frequency of orders side. So to your points, yes, we were capturing everything, and it was a lot of conversations. And we also had stakeholders that were coming from like very established like e-commerce businesses too, with like wealth of experience there, and they had tested some of these evolution processes in their companies too. So like there was a lot of the conversation. Sometimes not, although I'm a big fan of experimentation, sometimes there's also uh, a strong gut feel in the room that just doesn't need to be like experimented once again. So sometimes we relied on some of those opinions too, and then took it from there. So basically, what it ended up happening was we shied away from coupons, and we created this like deals concept. So it was more deals that were funded and managed by our merchant partners, and we created all these like merchandising moments to bring the best of their deals. And we created a algorithmic editorial page that refreshed as they pushed their deals onto the platform. So that actually both that had a lot of like engineering support behind it. So, like all our product managers and engineers helped us to build those like algorithmically dynamic populated pages, editorial pages, merchandising pages. And then on the marketing side, we brought a lot of like excitement around those deal pages and traffic to it. On the product side, like they built the functionality. Our category managers like sourced the right category of products that had to be featured on those moments, whether it's like a Black Friday moment or like 4th of July, like barbecue moments and things like that. So again, we were able to hit the revenue targets without the coupon budget, but like we were able to reinvest the money into like driving more traffic than funding the orders.
This is such a great use case. I have encountered multiple occasions where the consumer or the customers are used to expect some sort of incentive. So it's like if you look at the data, like every time there's a bigger incentive or reward, yes, there's more people sign up, more people, like a purchase, like and such.
Mhm.
So if purely looking at the data, it looks like, yeah, we should just do bigger and bigger rewards.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's almost like you're training people to expect those rewards. It's
Mhm.
like the Bed Bath and Beyond model. So like that, what you said
Exactly.
was very smart. Like it's one, you're shifting the financial burden from the platform side to the merchant side. Very smart. And two is probably more as the like holiday moments, so
Mhm.
it's unpredictable, and it's merchant specific, so it's like almost like unpredictable reward is a little like a less
Mhm.
than just, oh, expecting the next coupon.
Exactly. So, I mean, as I was listening to you, I just remember this like one moment that I'll always like smile every time I remember. So, imagine the day after Thanksgiving in the US. The entire Google campus is dark, obviously. Everybody's like celebrating Thanksgiving, and it also overlaps with the code freeze at Google. So, from let's say November till the end of the year, most engineers are out on vacation, PTOs, and so it's pretty like, dark in the Google office the next day. But 4 a.m. in the morning, there's one building with the lights on, with 100 people inside, and it's our war room or control room for our Black Friday sales starting for the next 8 days. And even the local Starbucks opens an hour before their regular time, so we could, because like the Google cafes are closed at that moment too, so we could bring everybody's like favorite matcha latte on the like the to the war room. And so basically we have these like giant dashboards, one on the products we have agreed with our category managers and their merchants partners on what products we want to sell. Next dashboard is all the like the marketing channels we're putting behind like every product and how it's doing, like looking at the traffic and their conversions, like sales ones. We have again like our BD team talking to like our suppliers even in China. Hey, the face roller is really popular, or hey, Dyson vacuum cleaner is like add more to the inventory. So trying to match everything, like the demand and the supply side of things. And we have our product managers. Some are like either immediately fixing some bugs in the reporting side of things or in like the website functionality because like there's a lot of traffic on it, or sometimes just observing and taking notes about how to automate all of this for next year's Black Friday moments, because this was a recurring thing. And then they build more sophistication around these, and not all of us had to get out of bed at 4 a.m. to then peel away from their precious time with family and friends. But this was a glorious moment where we were breaking like sales records. And also you have to make sure that like on the merchant side, they're also running similar Black Friday sales on their own website too, or they're partnering with like other platforms too. Like, how do you, as Google, become the most competitive one, like price wise, or they're like features wise, or maybe like it's not just any Dyson vacuum cleaner, but it's that right model you want to feature on, and so on. So getting that specific inventory. There were also a lot of like live conversations going on in the room too. And yeah, and then it was also like one of the most fun moments too, because we were all in our like onesies doing a best onesie competition. And I made sure whoever was in that room was awarded like through like bonuses and things like that at the end of the day. So it was just a good moment. And next year the same team shows up again with the same excitement.
Oh, that's such a great story. I can even like imagine in my head you all like dressing in onesies and drinking matcha latte.
Exactly. So basically, I'm going to go back to your first question. The difference in environment of a startup versus Google, It's actually not that different. I mean,
Okay.
we
Yeah.
were very scrappy at times, and we had to, yes, just roll up the sleeves and do a lot of things too. And yeah, obviously, like Google now is 20 plus years old, so it's more established in different ways. But we do have our matcha free matcha latte on a good day when it's not the national holiday. But yeah, so all of that is great. But in the end, you still have that entrepreneurial spirit to do more, and you kind of like creates your scope. And then if you have one, like you kind of want to create like a bigger scope. So you just have to take the risk and start doing things, and then all of a sudden, oh my god, like you see people like rallied behind you, and you continue from there.
That's such an amazing story. Bei, I know I've been asking a lot of questions.
Oh,
What questions do you
great.
have?
Oh, great story. Great story. Learning so much. Yeah, my main one, first of all, thank you, Esra, for sharing your vast, right, scope of things you do across different scales. So you left Google, you've been right actively working with a few startups. They're so lucky to have you. All right. So uh with all your experience and expertise, right? I'm curious, what kind of startups, right, with what specific problems can benefit from the most from you, just so you can apply your superpower to help them out. Because in the startup, here's my feeling, right? Every single one is facing a very specific different issues, right? So,
Mhm.
just so there is a potential, a good match or good information on who may be better talking to you, right? Is there
Mhm.
any specifics you can give to whoever is watching this video here?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to kind of like pitch myself too. And so there's no shortage of brilliance growth advisors, especially in Silicon Valley, but like anywhere too. But what I'd like to think I bring to the table is, first of all, global mindsets. Because again, going back to my experience, like working in emerging markets and then like mature markets like the UK, and then like global perspective as I led various like global leadership roles here. So I like to shift the founder's attention doing the businesses the global way, like think global but act local. Like there's a time when you need to act local too. Again, just one example is when you're doing coupons in the US, it's like so different than you're actually running a coupon campaign in e-commerce in Europe, because there's all the EU restrictions too, and like the way like you structure deals, like that's a whole different dynamic. So when you're like really sitting in like a startup office here and there's just getting some version out there, always know in Europe or in any other country outside the US, like this is not going to likely like land the same way. So I'd like to think that I open their mindset to like thinking more globally, giving some examples of what need to be like paid attention to like locally in other markets. That's one. And then secondly, given I played roles both in marketing, in growth marketing side of things, in field marketing, and the product marketing, but also outside marketing, like in product manager and partnerships team. So can I walk in their I've walked in their shoes, talk their language. So more cross-functional than just one specific like domain. And yeah, and then also again, it's not like a Googler coming in, ex-Googler coming in and teaching them how to do business. It's like someone with a lot of like startup P experience and scrappiness inside her, being like sitting with them and being one of them. So I want to make sure that they have that sentiments, and so we build the right chemistry from day one. It's not like me knowing everything and then coming to them to teach anything, but like we're just like figuring it out. And again, it's I'm going to go back to my first point and repeat it. Like it's a humbling experience for all growth leaders today, because doing growth is actually at a turning point, and driving growth in the AI world is going to be so much more different. So we're also testing and learning a lot for ourselves too. So yeah, it's very exciting for us to actually like learn from the startups too, not just try to understand their industry, but also try to reinvent growth discipline with the support of like the new AI tools and the whole like trend around it.
Got it, got it. Yeah, that's super helpful. I think two aspects the founders could take away from this one is, right. One is having a growth partner who had a vast range of skill sets and knowledge is just to not, instead of expecting everything would be just readily usable, although some might expect that, right? But more importantly, someone could leverage the experience to learn together, right? Just so the gaps and problem will be solved quicker. I think that's really the mindset to where the benefit from you would be maximized, right? The other one is also the global view, because so many startups, I've seen so many founders from all parts of the world coming to the US to build their global day one, right? But very rarely the founder has a global experience. Like even this morning, I was chatting with a company I work with. The founder just magically say, "Hey, somehow I realized the activity and the usage from India market was 10 times higher than average. What's going on, right? They somehow they find a fit." I'm like, yes, do it, right? Get a Indian specific landing page, right? Do something more specific to this audience. That's where the
Exactly. And I just had an experience almost the reverse of this. So it's a Europe-based company. It's a cybersecurity like automation company, and they have good client outreach in Europe, and they're now trying to expand to the US first and then globally next. And they set up this like chat box. So like when you are on the website, like, hey, welcome, can I answer your questions? It's great. And so little do they know that actually and I'm asking that should be generating a lot of like revenue or kind of like interest traffic, because it's on the website, it pops up immediately, so it's like really attention grabbing. And they're like, yeah, there's some leads coming, but we're not able to convert. And then I'm actually like testing it out, only to realize that since I'm in the US and I'm like responding, hey, I need help with this, that's like they didn't like turn on the chat bot to chat with me. So they're like, hey, we're out of office right now, we'll get back to you shortly. I'm like, how come
oh no.
actually you want to expand to the US and then not be available in US hours, and just put a chat bot or put like a white paper here to keep the user interested, intrigued while you're actually waking up, and so on. So, or just hire a fractional person supporting you in the US. And so basically all these like things are the pains of growing up when you're local in one region and need to think more global and broadly.
Yeah, exactly. Having that global view can provide a different perspective to the team. That's highly valuable. And I think more realizing that, and in that sense, right, your experience would be so valuable to them, I'm sure.
Hopefully, yes.
All right. Yeah, Holly, back to you. This is a great learning for me.
Yeah, Ezra, I really appreciate your time. I've learned so much, and I'm glad we were able to also dive pretty deep into some of the experiments you ran. And those are such a like great learning and use cases that can be applicable to a lot of startups as they think through their growth experiments. So really appreciate your time with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. And yes, I would love to spend time with the startups in your community, scratching our heads to solve their problems. And yeah, and then hope to see you again. And I'll continue to watch all your podcasts. I'll learn a lot from you guys too.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Esra. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.